something. If this city isn't protected, this city will crumble. Yes. And if no one stands up, then the city will definitely crumble sooner. So it's my job to stand up. And not only to stand up, but to fight. And to fight for the little people who can't fight for themselves. And to fight for people who nobody else will fight for. And to go after people who, you know what? I'm tired.
Now, isn't that funny, folks? That was a bite that I took from Opie and Anthony from Jim Norton. Super hilarious. If you actually listen to the whole show, please do. I will put a link in the description. The lead music was from Axion Ghost, and that was the Werewolf Bunker. I'll have a link in the description to that too. Anyways, so the point being, today, me and BZ, with fresh information we got, and now the stuff's out there, folks. It's out there. Two things have happened. I'm trying to be very clear with you so you understand that I'm being that clear. I was going to talk about the SF man who, San Francisco man, who went on a rampage, a drug-fueled rampage. I will talk about that real quick. Against some of his friends and other people. And the guy's name was Batai Coffee. Imagine that. And he ran some people over. 2 couples, actually. Finally, he was taken down with 3 shots. Hopefully, he gets better and faces the music. You know, that's just, but he decided to drop LSD. Look, I'm sure I've said it in my podcast. This is now my 199th podcast. I tried marijuana one time when I was 14, and it always made everybody who polygraphed me really want to dig into that because they thought I did it more than once. It put me to sleep. I thought it was stupid. It was $2 for a marijuana joint. And it would have been $2 for some Miller High Life, a 6-pack, or a 6-pack of Schaefer's beer. And it was like now as an older guy, when I eat tryptophan from turkey, I fall asleep or I get too fat, you know, from eating something. I get too bloated, it'll put me to sleep. Same kind of reaction. I was at a party I couldn't wait to go to. And I slept through the whole thing. Thank God there was no internet or there would have been dicks drawn all over my face. It would have been a fucking whole shit show. But thank God I was born in the 80s. But anyways, look it up. I don't see a good part about this story either way. Now, to lead into what I was talking about. McAfee. He actually wrote this, folks, on Twitter. You know, you guys who have it. I'll fucking bury you exposing corrupt CIA and government officials if I disappear. And it's the same rationale I use when I tell you guys my information's a lot of places and nobody you ever hear me publicly talk about. It's the same kind of shit. You have he wrote this, and this is I'll say this because it's true too. I'm not implying our entire government is corrupt. I am saying that it is corrupt to the point that no one is untouched by it. And all he wanted to be was left alone. He's paid tens of millions of dollars in taxes and received only condescension of federal employees. I get that from what happened to him. When I needed services in return, they didn't give them to him, so he chose to pay no more. That's his crime. You should have left me alone. He's got the shit. And so those two stories were quick. Now I want to break in real quick before I bring Baz on, because Baz is who you all want to really listen to. He's a good man. That's why I had that first meme up, and I'll put it up when I bring him on. Here's the point about shit that a lot of people don't understand is once you've started working for the government, you understand how it works, the SES, Special Executive Service, in the U.S. You understand it's, I really hate to say this, it's very incestuous. And they will cover for each other. Now, remember when Epstein got prosecuted the last time and it was such a light sentence? Now he's been rearrested. Do you know Comey's daughter? Yeah, same James Comey. His daughter was in the SDNY, Southern District of New York. Think about that, folks. And yet they cut him such a sweetheart deal. Now they're going to try to rake him over the coals. You guys can all look this up. But they're also going to try to protect what's theirs. When this outs, it's going to hit both parties. They're already trying to do it to Trump. It's going to fail because the only thing Trump did was take a flight from Florida on his jet back to New York, right? Okay, whatever, man. If somebody offers you a ride, you're not going to take it? Okay, maybe his plane was down. You don't know what happened. But remember, the Lolita Express was what went out to the Caribbean, that island he owned, where all those underage girls were that Epstein had. Think about this. Everything's written down. You're now starting to get a document release in slow dribs and drabs. And the interesting part to me is he goes back down on his own aircraft. Epstein's on his place at Mar-a-Lago. And what did Trump do? Epstein was groping some 13-year-old girl. Look, this is some serious shit that you guys need to realize. Trump not only banned him, he kicked him right the fuck out. That's kind of serious. So that means Trump saw something that was way out of bounds. And we all know Trump likes adult women. Just like somebody trying to say I liked something other than adult women, they'd be a moron. Because there's no history of that. I don't like shaved pussy. And I don't even, I think any girl that shaves their snatch wants to be eternally a teenager. And it's just stupid. Now, with that being said, I think what you're going to see is it's going to watershed. This is a watershed moment. It's going to flow to both parties, just like the Franklin scandal. Do you guys think I'm that stupid to say, oh, it's just one party or the other? And it might even be the libertarians. Who knows where this goes? But I believe the facts will come out. And trust me, if the information I have now, I always lead with the clarification if I'm wrong. And I say I'm wrong. I've done it numerous times on this show. But just like when I told you guys, Adnan Khashoggi, I had no empathy for his nephew, the quote-unquote reporter. It's a family business. And people don't realize who the doctor was for the first king of Saudi Arabia, Fahd. It was Adnan Khashoggi's father. That's what it was. That's the truth. So, my point is, as soon as my phone stops ringing, I don't know how to shut it off when it rings like this. So we're just going to have to deal with it. As soon as, now I shut it off. I thought I already had. Boomer Tech, guys. This is how Boomer Tech works. So here's the thing. What I see happening is everybody thinks they have clean hands, just like that journalist. You know what? That journalist probably was getting too deep into stuff that he already knew he was getting too deep into, and he may be an American citizen, but he wasn't in America when he outed it. So he's a moron. You know, that's the kind of thing, and I'm sure Baz will have his 2 cents on it too. And that's okay, because Baz is a good man. And believe it or not, he can agree to disagree with me all day long, and I will have no heartburn on it. We may banter back and forth, but what's more entertaining than 2 scorpions in a wine glass? You know? This stuff goes back years. I mean, back to the days of Frank Camper. You guys don't know him. He's now, 73 years old? I think Khashoggi died in 2017, Adnan. So, you know, they're all getting older in age. But that's the skin trade. That's what I was trying to do with all these videos that I've done. This is now my 199th show. And guess what, folks? I'm bringing on Baz right now. Baz, talk and say what you want, brother.
How's it going, brother?
Outstanding.
Excellent, excellent. I hope you and all the listeners had a good treason day on the 4th.
Yes, please explain the meme. That was epic. You gave that to me on a personal thing, so explain that meme so they understand the humor in it.
Yeah, it's just obviously it's sort of a running theme of what we do. We always look at both sides of the coin and then everything in between. So there's a lot of memes going around about how obviously the ones that were fighting for the independence for killing the tyrannical British. So I thought I'd just flip it on its head and send you that quick meme, brother, about the thin red line, back the crown. That the Day of Independence Day, 4th of July, is a terrorist holiday of tax cheats, cop killers, and basically just shenanigans. So I thought I'd throw that one in there, back the red, back the crown, thin red line, and all that good stuff.
You got to understand, in our community, there's a running joke with the Brits and the septic tank Yanks, which is what we are. It's fucking hilarious. They just say, "Hey, septic, come here," you know. But it's all humor. I mean, this is stuff none of us take seriously. But he sent this meme. I've got it up now. Independence Day is a terrorist holiday supporting cop killers, looters, and tax cheats. Red Lives Matter. Support the thin red line. Back the crown.
Back the
crown. Dude, unless they're clued into our own private jokes, they don't get it. I started it out with that one, but they were probably all looking at it like, what the fuck is this? And it was about...
Just turned.
Yeah. It's hilarious, dude, but it's just so funny, man. I mean, it's like everybody wants to act like something is different than it is. And the fact remains is, I've talked about this before, and so have you. I mean, we both talked about it's about the wolf pack, it's about the wolf. And a wolf pack never travels alone. And this is why it was one of my first videos, why I think the sheepdog theory is faulty. And Antifa proved it out in Europe and America. The police, they come out, oh, we're sheepdogs. We're protecting the sheep from the wolves. Like there's a lone wolf. That doesn't exist. The wolves come out in packs. And if you don't have the same numbers, then you better figure out how to get the same numbers and use the same amount of force against them. Because, well, I'll let you delve into this from your side of the pond, brother, without me even interrupting. It's your time, brother.
Yeah, on that subject of sort of like the Antifa and they were the ones that were out speaking out against the far right and against extremism. But what it's done, it's just turned it on its head. You've now got sort of a right wing element standing back and just going, look, they're eating themselves up. They're getting arrested, and where the police used to stand in front of Antifa and sort of like put the batons out towards the right. You know what I mean? The right protesters, the right wing groups. You're now seeing them turning inwards, and those batons are being used against Antifa to a certain extent. I mean, we do have it over here, but it's nowhere near as big as it is in the States. It's sort of that microcosm of London, that absolute fucking toilet of a place that we call our capital city, where it's quite a big thing. You go to any sort of like main city elsewhere in the UK and mention the word Antifa, and people look at you with an raised eyebrow and go, who? You know what I mean? It's pretty much an unknown, apart from those in that circle, either the right wing or the left wing sort of fringes. You know what I mean? Anybody in the middle, the average Joe citizen, you know what I mean, doesn't know or is not interested in Antifa. Yeah, go on, brother.
The funniest part about this, and I don't mean that in a funny way to laugh at, I'm just saying this is how topsy-turvy, when I say funny, it's how topsy-turvy it is. Clown world, I guess. You have Antifa, they beat up a homosexual Vietnamese immigrant.
Yeah.
Andy No, because he happened to be conservative, right? And I told people this years ago.
That's fascism.
Yeah, it is fascism. So they're not anti-fascism, they're fascism for their reason.
Pro-fascist.
Yes.
You're going to look at sort of like the late 20s, early 30s, certainly towards like 37, 38, 39 in Germany, when they were burning books and rounding all these people up and attacking people for a different sort of view on theirs.
It wasn't just National Socialist. It was also Antifa. Everybody was burning books. It was retarded.
Yeah. But now you look nowadays, do we have the right wing beating people over the head with bike chains en masse because of their differing views? We don't. Yes, there is sort of that right wing element of where there's violence and there's that that sort of insular, secular view on things, calling gay people fucking faggots and attacking them in the street and stuff like that. Where you look at Antifa, whatever we want to call it, and they're doing that en masse. They're fascists. You try and go there and debate with them, have a pleasant discussion or whatever. You might be in there. You saw people getting attacked for having a MAGA hat.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. That is fascism. You know what I mean? Beating people or taking violence of action against people or not allowing people to have their freedom of speech. You know what I mean? In case it differs from your own, it's fascism. You know. When you want to cut it, you're walking around with masks over your face because you don't want to be identified.
Yeah, the same thing the Klan did in the U.S. for years, even under Jim Crow and lynching people, so they couldn't be identified. And it comes from rules for radicals, and it also comes from the Clergy plan. I mean, that's what you guys face in Europe, and unfortunately in America, when you talk about the Clergy plan, they're like, what? What the fuck is that? No, it's an actual plan, and it's invasion of the West completely to destroy the West. And it's a communist agenda.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
in the end, that's what Antifa is. It's a communist agenda.
Now I read it was sort of more of an inkling of interest, not because of my views. I think of the shows that I've done. I think you and the listeners have got somewhere where I'm sitting in the middle. You know, I'm one of these people where I've had I'm
Right.
blessed with I'm blessed with enlightenedness. You know, I've been on that right wing, and you know my history, and I've spoken about my history. I
Yep.
think off the shows where when I first joined the army, I was a right wing fucking idiot. You know what I mean? When I say
You were
right wing, I
more
was
of a soccer thug. Come on, man. You weren't that right wing. You were just going out to soccer games and doing things that soccer game people did back in the 80s. I mean, I remember Europe back then. So you weren't right wing at all, no more than I am.
yeah, but it was sort of it was the fringes I was running with and the other groups I was sort of like toying with at the time that I can't really get into. Um, but I woke up. You know what I mean? I woke up and now I sit and I look at both sides with my head in me. I'm going, what the fuck are you playing at? But what I'm saying is, when back then I was you know what I mean. I was quite secular, insular. You know what I mean? And anything on the outside of our little circle was different. You know what I mean? I suppose in what the extreme Islamists would call haram. You know, like you're gay. That's just wrong. Or you're black. You know what I mean? You're subhuman and all that good
Right.
stuff. Well, not good. I don't mean good stuff. It's just that's just a term of speech.
I
But
know
you
the
know what I mean.
term
It
phrase.
was that fucking idiotic outlook on life. Well, sort of when I sort of drifted back into the middle, and I'm just like looking at both sides. I read the Turner Diaries. Oh, if you read the Turner Diaries, the book.
Oh yeah, I've read a lot of things. So
Yeah.
yeah, I saw a lot of. Here's the thing that I did get elucidated on is that, and this was from me being a federal cop in the U.S. I will tell you this, and everybody listening to me needs to understand. There's a lot of COINTELPRO going on, and it's to stoke the left versus the right, the extreme left and right, and move that Overton window to the left. The media does it all the time. I don't know about with you, but they praise Antifa. Even dude, they were still trying to do it after Andy No was a hit. When they focused on him, people don't understand the tactics of him. And then all of a sudden, you have a Secret Service agent outside of the White House. This really happened. And a guy was burning a flag, which is arson because it's now on a public area. Even burning your own flag is now arson. You can do it in your own yard. Don't do it in a public area. And the Secret Service agent came in to arrest him, and he threw the flag while it was burning on him, caused him burns. This is a fact. You can look this up, man. And then they tried to de-arrest him when officers came in, other Secret Service uniformed officers came in to arrest him. It's something that Antifa is really good at, is as soon as they grabbed him and ready to pull him out, they pulled him back. So now you have two people facing felony charges, fuck their lives up, and yet they still won't understand that they were wrong. They were absolutely wrong. The guy for throwing the fiery flag at him, and the other guys for trying to pull him back, away from the handcuffs. It's just a faulty thing. But this comes from something that was written in America by an idiot, and he was actually with the mafia at one time. They threw him out because he was so communist. But I don't know if you've ever read the book by why am I mind dumping his name? Because he's such a bag of shit, probably. Anyways, he wrote a book, Rules for Radicals. And yeah.
I've heard of that. In fact, it was only today that someone mentioned that to me. We were having a discussion about something, and someone mentioned it.
No, that's cool. I'm trying to remember his name, so keep rolling, brother.
Yeah, so I read the Turner Diaries, and it was sort of, they called it like sort of the agenda for the right wing, you know what I mean, the right wing blueprint, meant to be the blueprint for the Oklahoma bombings and stuff like that. But thinking back now on, and how sort of like far fetched it seemed, you look at some of the things happening now, and I'm not talking about black people being lynched and shit like that, but I'm talking the way that Antifa are acting, that they are actively trying to take away your Second Amendment rights, your freedom of speech rights, and so on and so forth.
Right.
So it wasn't so far fetched when you actually look at it from an outsider's view. You know,
You don't
it,
even have to go to that book. You can go to 1984. I mean, that book, they brought in squads. They had red armbands on their arms, communist, of course. Why do you think in America liberals or, left wingers, they're not allowed because of the church hearings and stuff? They used to have red as their color. Believe this or not, Democrats used to have their color was red. And they were like, oh, it makes us look like communists after the church hearings. And so what ended up happening is the Republicans took the red, being, trying to mitigate everything and make everything nice, and the Democrats took the blue. Now, do you see a problem there that now this is how the media is able to, and I don't mean the media we're on right now. I mean, they'll probably pull my channel. Who cares if they do? It's just, I'm doing these just to record for my son. Um, I don't monetize it. They can eat a dick. My 200th will be tomorrow. I hope you're able to get on it. But man, this shit has been building for decades. And nobody's even looking at the COINTELPRO that has made these people act the way they are. And they're still people. Black, white, green, brown. Look. You want to talk shit? Anybody out there? Guess what? I'm a half kraut, half spaghetti nigger bastard. You ain't gonna fucking blow no shit on me. I'll laugh at you. Because ain't no white nationalist gonna accept me. You see how this works? So, and I know they won't with you either, because you're a good man. And it's just retardation. And now they're attacking just regular Trump supporters. A Vietnamese guy. Think about this, bruh. A Vietnamese. I wonder if you could find, and you probably could in your town. Probably, I'll bet you could find a Muslim or a black or something. I know there's plenty of blacks in London. One of them, you and I both know mutually for reasons. He's a black gentleman, and he's pretty famous in England. And he's more conservative than he is left wing. But do you think he can even say it in that town? Fuck no, he can't. And that's kind of sad. Your thoughts?
Yeah, again, you can't put a face on it nowadays. It was quite simple, thought in the 50s and 60s, 70s even, that it was you were right if you were sort of conservative, right wing. Well, say right wing, but like Republican, right of the fence, then you were a white person, you were racist. Chances are you were classed as either um, middle to upper class, or a well off where you could afford to take those views and you could afford to choose what company you kept, or you were, not very well educated, working class. Where nowadays, it's the right and the left, they've come from all walks of life. I was on about my checkered past earlier on. I knew black guys that were in the National Front. And it was all because they classed themselves as English, of English blood. Yes, their great grandparents or their grandparents might have come from somewhere other than England, but they themselves were born in England and classed themselves in England. That did create a rift with some of the, some of the group that wanted it, white nationalist group,
Right.
and stuff like that. But then you look at most Antifa, are they not white, middle class young people? You know what I mean? That probably live with mum and dad. They've never really experienced the real world.
And they're
All
the
their microcosm comes from fucking social media. What they rate and live off on social media, and they're just feeding each other. It's like Chinese whispers. One of them will say one thing, or they'll pick up, let's say, a well-known right of the fence author or journalist or celebrity says something, and then it's blown out of proportion, and then they're just feeding into it. They're digging up shit, and it's like a frenzy. It's like throwing a piece of bacon into a pool of piranhas and watching the frothing and the fighting over each other to get to it. And it's pathetic because you look at these people with their multicoloured hair and their supposedly multi-gendered outlook on life, and you're like, but you've not seen the real fucking world. Turn your computer off, get a backpack on, and travel to somewhere like Africa. And I'm not talking to like one of these orphanage safari. Go into the
right.
rougher parts. You know what I mean? And let's just look how people are living there. I tell you what, fuck off to Iraq or Afghanistan and see
Yeah.
how people live there, and then come back and then whinge about how you're being misgendered in Starbucks. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well,
Cry
that's
me a fucking river. You know what I
yeah.
mean?
Go to somewhere like Rwanda. Go
Yeah.
to somewhere like Somalia.
Mm.
Go to some place, and everybody was like, "Well, Trump said people are coming from shitholes." Yeah, there are. You and I both can say this without a doubt. There are places where people are indoctrinated to hate, quote unquote, colonialists. And so Americans are colonialists, Brits are colonialists. Guess who's the biggest colonialist right now? It's the Chinese. They don't get painted with that broad brush.
Yeah,
Um,
you just got to look at the Chinese influence in Africa these days.
right.
It's fucking huge. China are not stupid people. The Chinese are not stupid people. There's a lot of them. One of the biggest economies on the planet. That didn't happen overnight. It's because they've got global reach now. You know what I mean?
Yep.
They've looked at what we've done, as in the British, hundreds of years ago, and how we conduct ourselves nowadays. They're looking at how America conduct themselves now as a burgeoning superpower that China are. They're not far off. They know that they have to have international influence, and how do they get that? It's through land, through minerals. You know what I mean? Industry,
It,
and
it's it's even super funnier than that. I mean, think about this. When you're over in Afghanistan or Iraq, the cell phones or the little pods we get to get internet, they're made by Huawei. And it was exposed by the U.S. and by England that that's spyware completely. They're
yeah,
looking at everything real time while you use it. And nobody wants to look at that. I mean, there is the power play, honestly, and I've talked about this before. I know I've talked about the three stools of, or I'm sorry, the three legs of the stool of doing a coup. The more important part people need to understand is that you have a diplomatic portion and an economic portion. Now, those two are interchangeable. You and I both understand this.
mm.
Then you have informational and military. Military is the last part. Informational, anybody out there, and I'm not one of these guys that will say that I'm an analyst. I analyze what's going on. Look, I'm an emergency management guy. That's what I look at. I like that small micro emergency management that I can affect. I can deal with a big grid emergency. I don't want to because I can't have an effect on that no matter how much my ego says, oh, I can. I know I can't. So it's cunt of me to say that. But the point is, either economic or diplomatic, those are the first, and then they're both interchangeable. Then you have informational. Informational probably supersedes both of those as long as you're on the forward edge of it. But I don't think we are now because now with China, we gave them Dragonfly from Google. So they can identify people that disagree with them in their own country. Do you think we're not using that now? Do you think this Google censorship is something unique? No, I don't think so. So now you have three things in play when this used to be the order. And then military is the last and final. Karl von Clausewitz said it best. The military solution is the final solution. And it's one that everybody should hold back on until it's needed. But nobody, you have the war hawks on both the left and the right. I love to call them neocons and neo-progressives. They both will say, well, Trump didn't attack Iran. Well, thank God he didn't. Because that's a war that's going to cost more lives. Why don't we protect our borders? Nationalism's not a bad word. If you love your nation, no matter your color, last time I looked with nationalism, you answer me this. Last time I looked with nationalism, was there ever a color implied in that until recently?
There wasn't. It's this narrative that swung from one side of the fence. That if nationalist equals racist, that's what we're saying nowadays. If you're a nationalist, you're a racist. You look at the definition of nationalism, and it's the love of one's country. It's not the love of one's country and the hatred of every fucker else. It's the love of one's country, the protection of one's country, or the willingness or want to protect one's borders, one's nation. And if you're black, white, if you're Korean and you are living in America, it doesn't matter that you are fucking Korean. It doesn't matter that you don't hold an American passport. It's the fact that you live in that nation. And if you want to protect that nation, then so be it. Then you deserve to fucking live there. You know what I mean? As opposed to someone who's born in America, who was fed and brought up by America, or the spoils of America, wealthy parents, who then paid X amount of dollars to dye their hair green and fucking $6.20 to go and burn a fucking flag on the floor, shout America's the devil, capitalism is the devil, Republicans are the devil, Trump is the fucking devil. Now ask yourself who deserves to live in that country more. The Korean who has a corner shop, who grafts like fuck every single day from 7 in the morning till 11 at night, or the Antifa fucking knobhead who gets off social media after feeding his cronies some more shit to go and burn a flag and abuse a gay Vietnamese journalist who just wants to go and answer a question to the point where he has a severe brain bleed. Who deserves to be in the fucking nation more? I know who I'd rather class as American, and I'm not American, so I can fucking say this. I'd rather have that Korean waving the fucking flag of the Stars and Stripes than the Antifa cunt burning it and stamping it all over it and whatever they do. Because they think that's affecting, they think that pisses you off. It pisses off those that, what I call blind nationalists, that see a burning flag and therefore get triggered at that burning flag. Yes, when you look at it, our servicemen and women were brought back underneath that flag after falling in combat. But to someone who's more aware of the bigger picture, you've got to think, yes, we know what it stands for, but them burning it in no way brings that flag down. We know what it means. We bleed for that flag. We've died. We know people who died for that flag, and that will always always out in brackets out Trump this fucking weasel.
Outstanding. Yep.
Yeah,
We do know people who've died for our flags. And I have more respect for the man who protests the war. And you and I are both. Here's the fucked up part that nobody wants to hear is veterans really are more anti-war because we've seen what it looks like. We know what it looks like. We don't want to see it in our homeland, right?
no.
And here's the pathetic part of it. I'd rather have them fly your flag and my flag upside down. Burning it means nothing to me. It's just like you're a moron. You don't understand.
You've just burnt the $6.20 you've paid for the fucking flag.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
It's a cunt move. But if
that was probably made in China anyway.
Yeah,
so
yeah. But
it's a piece of cloth.
Yeah.
That you've unwrapped. You've unwrapped it out of a box. It doesn't mean anything. It's not come off a veteran's coffin. It's not come from a state building. It's
Right.
not come from anywhere of matter or importance. It come out of a box and you've burnt it. It might as well have been a Metallica t-shirt or a fucking
a pair of underwear.
A San Francisco 49ers bed sheet. You know what I mean? It doesn't mean anything. Just because it has those colours on it, it doesn't really mean anything in your context. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it's only if you choose to accept the context that they're doing it in. You know what I mean? If you refuse that context, you're burning a piece of cloth or a piece of polyester that you paid for that was made in fucking China.
Right.
Yeah, the real one that flies above the fucking White House. If you went to burn that, there's a fucking issue there. And the chances are, obviously, you aren't going to get that flag. But let's say there was that flag in Antifa's hands, then you're going to get a lot of pissed off people for what that flag represents. That flag that flies above there is the flag of the United States. You know what I mean? Everyone. Well, you know what I mean, brother. You know what I mean. You know where I'm coming from there.
Yeah, it wasn't until I worked with Brits that, as an American, I understood there's a difference between when it's hanging upright and under. And the one commonality I was trying to say is that internationally, this is global. If you hang your flag upside down, that means your nation is in distress.
Yeah.
So what is the more important message? Your nation's in distress, or burning something that means, honestly, you know, I've retired flags. This is what we call it in the U.S. from Boy Scouts and being an Eagle Scout. I've even taught my son how to do it and other people.
Yeah.
There's a right way to do it. You cut the
stars off. You cut the stars off and all. Yeah, I know about that sort of like ritual.
Yes.
Yeah, and there is a proper way to do it, and it's an honourable way to do it. And again, it doesn't matter what that flag represents, or what. Sorry, in what context? It's the context that you take it in. The flags that you've retired have got context to them. You know what I mean? They've got meaning behind them. They've got history behind them. Them burning that piece of polyester out of a fucking box, there's no context to it. It's nothing. It's the context they're trying to add to it that, in our eyes, means fuck all. Yeah, burn it, dickhead.
Yeah,
your money.
It's cuntism. Yeah. Unless you assault somebody like they did that Secret Service agent. Here, the bigger point, honestly, I believe this, brother, is if you really think your country's in distress, fly your flag upside down. Fly it upside down. Stand up as an American or as a Britishman or a woman. Either way, you know, my channel's all about men, and I really hated going political today. But it was one of them things where, honestly, you heard me say it in the beginning. Left or right, I don't give a fuck. You fucking kids, you're destroying people's fucking lives. I don't give a shit which way this rolls. And honestly, I respect Trump, but if he actually did anything, which I know he didn't, and I'm not getting into why I know this, but I guess I did in the beginning of the show, then I would say, yeah, go after him. But, dude, the media instantly, and this is the thing about the media needs to be brought down a peg. I'm not saying I'm the replacement. I'm just giving a voice. I think everybody on my page who listens to me, Give your voice. That's why I say like, comment, and share. Look, you're sitting on my big orange couch. All I can do is saddle up my horse after I put the blanket on, cinch up that little binder, and then knee it in the gut to make it a little more tighter so I don't fall down underneath it and get stomped to death. Making sure that I have at least a revolver on my hip, that if I get dragged, I can end the ride without me dying. But it's so stupid that we have to have this conversation. We're now in what? The current year, 2019? What did we not learn from the 1800s? Why are we still moving shit that's retarded forward? It doesn't make sense. They can all eat their dick, because last I've looked, and Venezuela's an example. I know it's never been done better because you're not in charge. But socialism, Venezuela, now they're throwing people out there to pick crops and plant them by hand because they don't even have enough money to refine their own oil. And everybody will say, well, the Russians this, the Russians that. Well, Russia's supposedly their ally. So is Cuba. Why aren't they building refineries so they can use their things to feed their people? And yet their people are starving. This is fucking moronacy. And they want to bring it to your country, our country, and Europa in general. And that is a disconnect I just do not understand. I'll never forget. I will. This will be my last statement on this. I'll never forget going back to East Germany, looking at it from West Germany, and seeing it, and thinking, what the fuck are they doing? Mielke and Honecker. A lot of people don't understand. I've made videos on this on another channel. I intimately know this shit. And these motherfuckers are now trying to destroy all of the West. And that was always the plan from the Clergy Project, the Clergy plan. So your thoughts?
Yeah, what they'd like to do is, and it's like this AOC led narrative of, look, capitalism's bad, socialism's good, like look at Venezuela, but then they keep pointing over towards sort of Northern Europe, like, oh, Denmark, look at Denmark, it's a socialist country. Denmark has got a socialist government that is built and operates on capitalist views. You know what I mean? On a capitalist infrastructure. It's not a socialist nation. It's just led by socialists. Like tomorrow, if Trump and his administration turned around and went, oh, we're socialists, doesn't make the United States a socialist fucking nation, because it's led, bred, and ran on capitalist values. You know, it's absolute fuckery. And again, we'll track back slightly to the original sort of point of the show when it comes down to this Epstein fucking malarkey. It's what they want you to see. And again, we've always touched on this before, brother, in our previous shows, is that narrative. And now both sides of the fence are getting shit from this Epstein fallout. It's like both sides are like looking, right, what can we release that won't damage us? Can we release this that puts them in a bad light but won't damage us? And you can see both sides doing it. And like we said, it's very incestuous. In the halls of power. Look, we can't put that out because it'll make him look bad over there, and he's a good guy, he's on our fucking side, you know, and that's what's doing. And I think, again, what Trump does well is he goes, okay, yeah, this happened, this is what I did, and he puts it out there, and it's sort of like going, okay, I've pissed on your fire, what are you going to try and burn me with now? You know, because there's fuck all else. I've pissed on your chips. I've pissed on your fire. There's nothing else you can put to me that can make me burst into flames. And now, like I say, of when he kicked Epstein out of the club and basically just fucking go away because you're an absolute lizard. There's obviously ties there with the British royal family as well. Now, the British royal family are a lot more sort of, and I'll say it, incestuous. Not like they fuck each other, but incestuous in it's very secular. You know, it's not a reflection of true British way of life because we don't all live in castles. We don't all sip fucking tea from China little cups, and you know what I mean, and have butlers and stuff like that.
Yeah, but the one difference I want to make very clear to the American listeners, and you can run with it, honestly. We don't swear an oath to a queen or king. Officially, that can never happen. We can't take a title officially, even if we have one. It's just not what Americans do. We swear that oath to a constitution that has amendments to it. And if you can't keep to those amendments, then why would you swear that oath? And you can talk to the people and let them know, you know, and I know that I know it breaks my heart why I'm saying this. I know that the Queen is not like this. A lot of people talk shit about her, but I will never. And I don't think any of the kings or queens have done this, except for 2, I think, in history. But we're going back years. But you swear your oath to the Queen or King, and guess what? It's not to a constitution. It's not to the Magna Carta. It is about you are swearing your oath to protect your country for God and Queen or King. And that's almost, if you think about it, we swear it to our Constitution and to God, and yet you have so many people trying to dilute it. And that's something that's a good topic to explore.
Yeah. It's I would dare say it's sort of like when an outsider looks at the US and you've got sort of Trump supporters. I won't call them Trump fans or anything like that, but Trump supporters. And I mean that in a positive sense, where you've got this elected leader of your nation, and you've got people that support him, no matter what. You know, and he's your commander in chief at the end of the day, and as a soldier, an airman, a sailor, a marine, a coast guard, you mean your allegiance is to your nation, the Constitution, God, and your commander in chief. You know, it just so happens that our commander in chief is again the ruler of our country. She doesn't get a say, a daily say. She doesn't run the country. She's the head of our nation. You know, she doesn't make the laws, blah blah blah. If she really wants to, she could do, but she tends not to, and she hasn't, as far as I know. If there's, let's say, the Iraq War and the Afghanistan conflict, in matters of war, she will always be notified. Look, we want to send our troops to war. She says yes or no, because at the end of the day, we belong to fucking her. We don't belong to the absolute creatures that run this country on a daily basis.
She is the supreme leader.
Yeah, and in a good sense. Now, obviously, again, you've got those. You've got those that oppose the monarchy and stuff like that. But I'm a royalist. You know, I'm a royalist. I support the royal family, the same as a lot of people in the United States support President Trump. I'm a Trump supporter, even though my word means nothing because I'm not of American blood. But at the end of the day, no matter what, they're the leader of our countries. And as a dutiful person, whatever goes, whatever she says goes. If the Queen, the boss, as we call her, says fucking jump, as a soldier or a former soldier, we say how high, Your Majesty.
Yeah, how
high. You know what I mean?
Yep. How high? How high?
Yeah. How high and how fucking long do you want me to do it for?
Exactly. And that's the other thing. People in America fail to remember, and this is a historical fact, when we rebelled, and that was one of the funny things that I loved sharing that meme on. we were royal subjects. And we decided, hey, you know what? King George, this hurts us. Look, I heard it from several different shows I listened to. And the Declaration of Independence was probably the longest breakup letter ever written. A breakup letter like a boyfriend girlfriend kind of thing, but it was nation and nation. And it was the longest breakup letter ever written. And it told why. It wasn't like, oh, you're not to blame, you're not to. It's like, you have done this, and we think we can do better. And it was very blunt. And what these morons that keep pushing this Antifa line, they don't understand the communist line. They don't understand that premise, that it was a breakup letter. Period. Your thoughts?
Yeah, it's that ignorance of history and the bits that they want to understand, although they choose to try to think to understand. You know, and again, going back to it, what a lot of people fail to realise that George Washington was a serving lieutenant colonel in the British Army. He wasn't some
Yes, he was.
hardline American-born fucking renegade. He was a
born
colonel.
in England, in London. I've been to his house.
He was a British soldier. You know what I mean? So it wasn't again Americans fighting the tyrannical British. It was British subjects fighting against a tyrannical government. The same thing as if they were just lucky enough to be in another nation. Fuck you. We found, obviously they didn't found the nation because it was the indigenous population, but that again, I'm not going to get into that fucking argument. But it was like, we can do better here. We don't need to be ruled by Britain. You know what I mean? In another nation. And again, Britain had to turn around and go, okay, what's more important? Our East India Company, the massive fuck around that we're having in India, or some upstarts in America? You know what I mean? So it was sort of like, where does our priorities lie? And it was obviously the Napoleonic Wars. It was the fuck around in India. And so it was like, I'm not saying this because I'm a biased Englishman or anything like that, but let's say we didn't have the fuckery going on in India, and we didn't have the fuckery going on with the Napoleonic Wars. I would dare say history would be a lot different. Would you still be flying the Union flag? I don't know, because again, the way that Britain conducted itself back then wasn't conducive to a long-lasting empire. You know.
Well, Canada is still a part of the crown.
Yeah, and they're doing okay.
Yeah, they're doing fine. I mean, look, here's the thing that so boggles my mind with Americans usually. Is I've worked with these dudes. We all believe the same, but in the end, we're all gun carriers. I have no doubt that if you wanted to, and I'm not saying you do or you don't, if you wanted to carry a gun, you could do so.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people that do in England. Same with Germany. Look, here's the funny thing. After the revolution, do you know it was a very slim margin that made English, although we don't claim it as the official language, it was a very slim margin that made English the official language other than German. That's how devolved. And then they talk about reparations. Well, it was such a small amount of people that actually owned slaves. It's actually a retarded move. And yet we're having our own Democratic Party talk about reparations, bro. I have no clue where this goes, but honestly, I will tomorrow, hopefully, if you're around, I want you to be a part of it. I'm trying to get people together for my 200th show and just have a talk on things. And they're all people from all over. So you're one of the dudes I really respect, and I see where you're coming from on everything. Here's the thing, folks. When did we lose the ability to see where somebody's coming from and then say, honestly, and I'm being very frank with you, brother, growing up, I never heard anybody say, that's a Democrat, that's a Republican, don't talk to him. Never heard that in my life until after Obama came in. And Clinton started it, honestly. Bush didn't help anything, and even Bush Sr. started it. 1,000 points of like speech. You guys can all look this shit up. But I never heard that until those times. And it just, they were trying to force us to all become globalist. And we're not going to do it. None of us. And I know England, I think you're going to have a very good PM very soon. And he's already said it will be a hard Brexit. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I think, again, it's a split nation like the US is at the minute. We've got those who are voting for Conservative, obviously your version of your Republican Party, and then those who are sort of like hardcore Labour, left-wing supporters that never want to leave the EU. They just want to be cuckolded to the European Union for fucking God knows how long. And there's the pros and cons of leaving the European Union. I sort of, again, I'm quite centrist. You know, I look at both sides of the argument. I say, okay, the argument that the left got there, the left of forwarding, that's got some merit to it. Look at the right, that's got some merit to it. But again, at the same breath, I look at both sides of the argument and go, that's fucking bullshit. When it comes to a new PM, it looks like it's going to be Boris Johnson. I think he goes to the same barber as fucking President Trump. You know, I mean, the crazy
fucking hair.
But again, I look at the argument of, yes, he's promised all this, he's promised this, but then I look at his background, where he's come from, and he's very much an elitist. You know, is that a good thing? We don't know, but he's very outspoken against this Brexit. You know, and I think what we need to do is just go, look, we voted. The majority of our nation came together for one vote, and they're saying, yeah, but the left didn't. That's not the majority of the United Kingdom. Hey, unfucking lucky. The majority voted for that vote. Everybody else voted different, weren't the majority. There might have been more people voting for different things, but there weren't the majority singular votes. So guess what? You fucking lost the vote. And to call for a referendum and a re-vote, it's the death of democracy.
Yeah.
If you can't, it's all right to say, but we know more now. Yeah, but okay, you might get the next vote and win. But where does that end? We can say, okay, we want another vote now because we know even more now. It can go on for fucking ever.
That's why democracy is a fallacy. We are a democratic republic in America. It's a representative republic. And that's where most of Europe failed. Especially France, remember, they bounced there, and France actually helped us against the English. And, I mean, there's many French names that helped us to train Americans, right?
Yeah.
And you and I both agree, training's key. But here's the point that I want to point to, and I would love your rebuttal. Democracy's bullshit. That means mob rules. That means if California, who's extremely liberal, and New York, who's extremely liberal, they have a population center that can outvote us if they're mobilized, and the center of the nation, flyover country, has no voice. That's why we're a representative democracy. A representative republic is more clear. Is because we now have and honestly, the Senate at one time was voted in by the state, not by the people. That was the two people you sent to the Senate. And the Congress was for the people. That's why they say the Senate is a deliberative body. It's amazing what we did, but the French didn't do it. They did it after us, and they even locked up one of our founding fathers, and in prison actually. And that's fact. You can look that up. And it's just disgusting that we still use democracy, because democracy is mob rule. It's Antifa rules you now, right?
Yeah. There was a Brexit vote. It was sort of a. It was. I would say it was the purest of votes. It was a yes or no vote. It wasn't yes, maybe, no, yes, but with this, no, but with that, maybe with that. You know what I mean? It was fucking black and white, yes or no. And I think what it was, again, it was a bit like the old the Trump presidency. It was like no one's going to take it fucking seriously. No one's going to vote for President Trump to be in. They said the exact same. No one's going to vote for Brexit. All the right wing fucking nationalist idiots will come out and vote after they've been to the pub or before they've been to the pub and got their social security checks. Because they're all stupid.
Yep.
They all don't know anything. And then all of a sudden it was like boom, fucking 17.4 million people, which was the largest majority vote, won the vote. And they were all looking at each other and going, what the fuck just happened? Well, guess what? You fucking threw it to the people, called them, and again, this is just an analogy, the deplorables, and they won't fucking know what's going on, and now we're where we're at. So we'll fucking see. We'll see. But again, if it doesn't happen, then it's certainly the death of democracy. And it won't be a positive death either, because then where does it end? Where does it end? What's the point of fucking voting? Because you're not going to listen to us. And that's how fucking coups happen.
It ends in the death of. It's not the death of democracy. It ends in the death of a nation. That's fact, because if they can throw as many illegals in to tip a vote on both your end and our end, guess what? You just lost anything you thought was democracy, because those people, I hate to say this, they come from shithole countries, man. Think about it. Germany, Angela, I've talked about this with you ad infinitum, ad nauseum. And honestly, I actually liked her. If you listen to her first campaign speech with the Christian Democratic Union, I was like, oh, I've now lost any faith in any European elections. And I don't even care about it anymore. And those that still do, I mean, I'll talk to you and talk to others from around the world. It doesn't matter. But if you choose it, you may not choose it, but how do I stand on 2 feet with fists clenched to say, here's where we stand or fall? You remember that song from I think it was ABC, Stand or Fall? State your case tonight. And we used to actually be able to state our case. Now the left doesn't even want to hear a case.
Yeah.
And being a former member of the left, just like you, think about this, man. Think about it. Now you're silencing voices. That is the pressure cooker that somebody pulls that little top off so it doesn't, I never use this term, so it doesn't pop the top off and everybody in the room gets scolded. It's just bizarro world. And honestly, I can't say we didn't help build it, because we were all lackadaisical, including our parents, honestly. We didn't understand what 1965 meant. Now we do. It's about replacement. And they're just sick of having. Look, the blacks, it's hilarious. The black folks and the other folks that came here pre 65, Jamie Farr is one of them, and his children too, they assimilated. What happens when people don't assimilate? They go tribal. That's how we have the funniest shit. We have 2 members of Congress who have no compunction about being Muslim and pushing their agenda. And lying. AOC, communist, lying. I found a video today from Dan Bongino. Dan has some information. I have some information. I'm not getting into it now. But, dude, I am telling you, this shit is off the chain. And when I say off the chain, I mean nobody saw this coming. And I mean that. And your thoughts?
Yeah, it's just going back to the Antifa and stuff like that, and what they're trying to do. You know, I've mentioned it before. There's a good podcast with Joe Rogan and a Navy SEAL called Andy Stumpf, and basically they're touching on this Antifa fucking shenanigans, and Andy Stumpf is saying, look, you don't know how far this is going to go. You're on about doing this. You're assaulting people with bike chains. You're open carrying your so-called these assault weapons that you demonize. You know, and they're going to have a bad time because it's going to get to a point where, and it's not going to be like a nationwide thing. It's going to be an isolated incident where tempers escalate and then something goes wrong where one of the left kill a member of the right or the centrists, you know what I mean? Because they're so frenzied. They're frenzied to the point where they're going to kill somebody and then it'll spill over. And let's be honest, most veterans, Second Amendment supporters who, at this moment in time, I sat there just drumming the fingers on the tabletop, just going, shut the fuck up. You don't know what you're talking about. I've seen the real world, blah, blah, blah. And then, boom, this happens. If they want it to happen, Antifa bring it to the table, then they're going to have a bad time. You have ex-Navy SEALs, you've got ex-Rangers, just anybody in general that knows how to handle a weapon. Chances are they know how to handle a weapon, or there's a lot more of them than people in Antifa who's so anti-Second Amendment. You want to bring a war to the table, you're going to have a fucking bad time.
It will honestly come from the left, and the reason I know that is they have no, I don't know how to say this other than emotional control. I wish I was wrong, but they've proven themselves. Look, it's just like you and I. We make snap judgments on people, and you know many people I know, and you know we figured things out on different people. And the thing is, once you let slip the dogs of war, one round fires out. That's the news shot heard around the world. And both sides will say the other side did it. It's the same thing with Lexington and Concord. Nobody knows who actually fired that first shot. But it was heard around the world. Except this time, it'll probably be a quick succession all around Europe too. I just have a feeling, and nobody will ever be able to say who started it. Who's the first person who fired that shot? It's retarded, and it's the worst case scenario. And nobody should ever want to do that because they don't know. You and I know what this shit looks like. They don't. For the most part.
Well, that's what they need to realise is, the left do have veterans in their midst, and some of their veterans are ex-special forces, you know, but the chances are they are disenfranchised, disheartened, at some point in their military careers, they've been fucked over by the military, and they've seen the military for what it is in some respects. We've got you've got views in your military where it goes right, where it goes wrong. The same over here. I know what fuckery goes on in the British Army to a fucking very good extent. I've spent nearly quarter of a century in the fucking thing.
Right.
But I left the army, and I'm not disheartened by it. I know, again, as biased as I am, that it's probably the most professional, not the largest or more powerful, but the most professional fighting force on the planet because of the small numbers we've got and what we can do as that force. The same way that as an American veteran will say that the Americans are the most professional, most hardened fighting force on the planet. It's. But at the end of the day, we know where those strengths lie, and we know the outcome of any conflict, home or abroad. We've seen what happens in history, even in our own history, where people have taken arms and they've assaulted another set of people, and then things have gone out of control, and before you know it, there's bodies lying in the streets, and then people with uniform walking around trying to separate from who's good and who's bad, and inevitably things happen and go wrong. And then you've got the narrative being set that all soldiers are walking around the streets butchering people, or the left butchered people, or the right butchered people, from whatever narrative it comes from. And again, that's something that we could go on for hours and hours and hours, and we don't.
Oh yeah, we
people,
will do that after the 200 show. I want you back after the 200 show. If you want to be on, you can. This is probably one of the most important shows I've done to tell people stand down, realize, and actualize what's
fucking speak to each other.
Yeah. And this is something you have no idea what you're about to unleash. That genie, once you rub it, once you rub that glass or that brass, whatever you're doing on that jar, it does become what I always have called, and you know this, it becomes that sticky, wet masturbational fantasy. And you don't know how the war dice are going to roll. And nobody wants to hear that because, honestly, I must know nothing, although I've spent, myself, 31 years now almost. 32. I can't remember. I don't even care anymore. Honestly, it was funny. I played that Jimmy Norton thing because I actually was like super crime fighter. I wanted to fix shit. And then I was just, now at this point in my life, I'm like, I'm tired. I give up.
Fuck it. I've done my bit.
Yeah. Yeah. So, look, you can either suck a dick, eat an ass. I don't really care what you're going to do. Not you, brother. But the folks out there.
I thought you were offering then.
Yeah. Hey, hopefully you'll be able to bounce over here to the U.S. soon. I know Elijah is now here, so I'll be seeing him soon and do a show with him. It really breaks my heart, man. I really wish people would understand what they're asking for because it's a horror show. And we've done several shows on what that looks like. It's a war by mailbox level. And you think your family's safe? Think again, folks.
Yeah, because it'll escalate. It'll go from the bike chains to someone getting shot, and then it'll be, repercussion killings.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. Honestly, the left are the worst people for it. These doxing, where they put out your name, your address. You put out your name and address, and all of a sudden, your child opens up a fucking envelope nailed to you, or a box nailed to you, and gets a little lambs blown off.
Yeah, gets a bunch of nails.
Your wife gets acid attacked in the fucking in the grocery store.
In the market.
And then where does it stop? And then you've got somebody. I will put my hand on my heart and said, if anybody attacked my family, I will put my hand on my heart and say, if anybody attacked my family, I will put my hand on my heart and say, if anybody attacked my family, I will put my hand on my heart and say, if anybody attacked my family, I will put my hand on my heart and say, if anybody attacked my family, I will put my hand on my heart and say, if anybody attacked my family, I will put my hand on my heart and say, if anybody attacked my family, I will put my hand on my heart and say, if anybody attacked my family, I will put my hand on my heart and say, if anybody attacked my family, I will put my hand on my heart and say, if anybody attacked my family, I will put my hand on my heart and say, if anybody attacked my family, I will put my hand on my heart and say, if anybody attacked my family, I will put my hand on my heart and say, if anybody attacked my family, I will put my hand on my heart and say, if anybody attacked my family, I will put my hand on my heart and say, if anybody attacked my family, I will put But guess what? You've just taken it to the fucking next levels of hell. You know, you don't know what's coming. You've all seen the film Law Abiding Citizen. It does not fuck all on what I'd do to you and yours. You know what I mean? You want to bring that fucking pain. Guess what? You've just opened it up. No one's bad. There's no rules of engagement as I'm concerned. You want to attack your family? Guess what? It's fucking game time.
Here's the funniest part is you and I think so much alike, and people don't understand. This is global. This is German speakers. This is a lot of people. I'm a nice guy. You stop by my house, you want to talk to me? Yeah, I'll talk to you. You bring some hate, we'll have a different conversation that way. Now, I do have to close the conversation. I want to close it out with a quote that I know you'll love too. It's from Musashi, okay? And you all, everybody who knows me knows this. When you fight as if you're already dead. That's one of the quotes. But I synopsized it a lot shorter. Helmet on, heart gone. Do not sleep under a roof. Carry no money or food. Go alone to places frightening to the common brand of men. Become a criminal of purpose. Be put in jail. And extricate yourself by your own wisdom. Because you're not going to, if you're a true warrior, you're not going to put yourself in that predicament. And they can, honestly, this is the hardest part to try to tell people. They don't understand that you take the decision, you bought the ticket, took the ride, and there's obviously a purpose, and that's why there's obviously a trail that if people actually knew what they were fucking doing, they could find out why that trail exists. But guess what? Nobody cares. It's all fun. And thank you for stopping by the cellar table, Baz. We'll talk as soon as this is over. I have to play my outro. I've now brushed, pulled the saddle off my my horse, brushed it after I took the blanket off, put it up in the stable, and Kaiser's Castle is closing the drawbridge. Not quite yet, because all you guys sitting on my big orange couch need to leave. Because you've imbibed the coffee, tea, soda, or adult libations. And that's fine. If you've indulged too much adult libations, there's plenty of room in Kaiser's Castle. But the point is, this is the 199th show. I am super proud I've done this with Baz. Because we're trying to give you a warning. And I think sometimes nobody's listening. With that being said, brother, it really breaks my heart that I have to say I'm going to play Sojourn to Sikkim and from Axion Ghost. And then the final word will be when I say it. Chef out.